Hello class. Today's video is going to focus on 2.4, which is solving equations with a variable on each side. The goal of the video is I can solve equations with the variable on each side. You want to open your textbook to page 91. So solving equations with the variable on each side. Sometimes the variable will appear on each side of an equation. To solve these equations, use the addition or subtraction property of equality to write an equivalent equation with the variable terms on one side and the numbers without variables or constants on the other side. So I will say that when I am solving equations that have variables on both sides of the equation, I like to start by moving the smallest variable, and that way you will work with more positive numbers, but not always. Okay, example 1, this is on page 91. Solve an equation with the variable on each side. Just want to tell you that you are not going to use the book's problem to solve. If you want to write this on the lines on the side of the page, you can solve it there, and then you don't have to worry about the problem from the book getting in the way. Okay, so we are going to solve 5 plus 7a equals 4a equals 13, minus 13. So I am going to start by putting a line down the equal sign. And remember, we're trying to get the variable all by itself on one side of the equation, and then the numbers, the constants on the other side. So I'm going to put a box around both of my variables. So I've got 7a and I've got 4a. Now I want to move the variable that is the smaller number. So between 7a and 4a, 4a is smaller. So I'm going to start by doing the opposite of adding 4a. So that would be subtracting 4a. And I'm going to do that on the other side of the equation as well. So remember, whatever we do on one side of the equation, we also have to do on the other side. So I have 5, which is just going to come down. 7a minus 4a is 3a, so that's going to be plus 3a. Equals comes down. 4a minus 4a is 0, so that cancels out. And then negative 13. Don't forget the minus sign in front of the 13. Okay, so again, I'm going to put a box around my variable. So I'm putting a box around the 3a. And then the 5 needs to move to the other side. The opposite of adding 5 is subtracting 5. And I'm going to do that same thing on the other side of the equation. So 5 minus 5 is 0. That cancels out. 3a is going to come down. The equal sign comes down. Negative 13 minus 5 is negative 18. Okay, our last step now, we have 3 times a. So the opposite of multiplying is dividing by 3 on both sides. 3 divided by 3 is 1. We're left with a. Negative 18 divided by 3 is negative 6. Okay, so our answer is a equals negative 6. Now we are going to check our solution. So on the side here, I'm going to do the check. And here, I'll even switch colors. Okay, so for the check, we're going to take our answer, which is negative 6, and we're going to replace the anytime we see an a in the original equation with negative 6. So we've got 5 plus 7 times a, so a is negative 6, equals 4 times a is negative 6, minus 13. Okay, so I'm going to start on the left side and focus on simplifying that side. So I'm going to start with 7 times negative 6, which is negative 42. You can bring down the 5. So then I have 5 minus 42. It's going to give me negative 37. Okay, so now we're going to focus on the right side. So we're going to start with 4 times negative 6, which is negative 24. Bring down minus 13. Now we're going to do negative 24 minus 13, which will give you negative 37. So those two are equal. So that checks. That means our answer of A equals -6 is correct. Okay, think about it. Leon says that when you solve 5 plus 7a equals 4a minus 13, you can just combine 7a and 4a because they are like terms. Explain whether Leon is correct. So Leon is not correct. Because this is an equation and 7a and 4a are on opposite sides of the equation, in order to get them together, you have to do inverse operations. So you either have to subtract 7a or subtract 4a. You can't just combine them and add them together because they're not on the same side of the equal sign. Okay, this is number 1 on page 97. So we have 7c plus 12 equals -4c plus 78. So I am going to start by drawing a line down my equal sign. And then I'm going to put a box around both of my variables, so 7c and -4c. Now I'm going to move the smaller number. So between 7c and -4c, -4c is the smaller number. So I'm going to do the opposite of -4c. So that's going to be plus 4c. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side of the equation, so plus 4c. Now I have 7c plus 4c, which is 11c, plus 12 comes down, the equal sign comes down, -4c plus 4c is 0, so that cancels out, and then the 78 comes down. Okay, so now again, I'm going to put a box around my variables, so 11c, and I need to move the plus 12 away from it. So in order to move the plus 12, I have to do the inverse operation, which is subtracting 12. And I gotta do that on the other side as well. Okay, so 11c comes down. 12 minus 12 is 0, so that cancels out. On the other side, I have 78 minus 12, which is going to give me 66. Okay, our last step, we have 11 times c, so the opposite of multiplying by 11 is dividing by 11. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side of the equal sign. So 11 divided by 11 is 1. We're left with c. 66 divided by 11 is 6. Okay, and then we're going to check that. So in order to check, we take our answer and we substitute it into the original equation in place of c. So we have 7 times c, c is 6. So 7 times 6 plus 12 equals -4 times c, which is 6. So -4 times 6 plus 78. Okay, so we start on the left side. 7 times 6 is going to give me 42 plus 12. 42 plus 12 is 54. Okay, and then on the right side, we've got -4 times 6. That is -24 plus 78. And then -24 plus 78 is going to give me 54. Okay, so since those two are equal to each other, it checks. So C equals 6 is the correct answer. Okay, this is number 2 on page 97. So we are going to solve 2m minus 13 equals -8m plus 27. So I'm going to start by putting a line down the equal sign, and then I'm going to box both of my variables, and I want to move the smaller one. So the smaller number between 2m and -8m is -8m. So I'm going to start by adding 8m to both sides, since that's the opposite of a -8m. Okay, so then I have 2m plus 8m. That gives me 10m. Minus 13 comes down. Equals comes down. -8m plus 8m is 0, so that cancels out. And then the 27 comes down. Okay, so I'm going to put a box around the 10m now. So now I am going to have to move the minus 13 to the other side. So the opposite of subtracting 13 is adding 13. And I'm going to do that on both sides of the equation. So 10m is going to come down. Negative 13 plus 13 is 0, so that cancels out. And then 27 plus 13 is 40. Okay, the last step, we have 10 times m, so the opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we're going to divide both sides by 10. 10 divided by 10 is 1, and we're left with m. On the other side, 40 divided by 10 is 4. So we get m equals 4. Okay, so let's check that really quick. So in order to check it, I'm going to take my answer, which is 4, and substitute it into the original equation for m. So we have 2. In place of m, we're going to put 4. So 2 times 4 minus 13 equals negative 8. In place of m, we're going to put 4. So times 4 plus 27. Okay, so starting on the left side, 2 times 4 is going to give me 8 minus 13. 8 minus 13 is going to give me negative 5. On the right side, I have negative 8 times 4, which is negative 32, plus 27. Negative 32 plus 27 is negative 5. So negative 5 equals negative 5, so that checks. That means our answer is correct. Okay, so that is the end of 2.4a.